a lot of thumbs up. So much so that she's coming back tomorrow evening with her mother, and she's going to learn another recipe and do another video.
Wow.
So you should really take a look at it. It's on the district webpage under food and nutrition. It's on the Facebook page for the district and YouTube. So she did a beautiful job. She used a little bit of her reading and math and science and just her personality and what she memorized in her delivery, just priceless. So another new item this year, not saving the best for last, is that the legislature last year passed a law, and the law allowed paid students to participate in breakfast and lunch without paying. So the cost to do that is picked up by the state and federal government. That was a hit with families. If a family had one student, they saved around $100 this year if they participated in breakfast and lunch, and we had very strong participation. So you can imagine $900 for one, and most of the families have multiple children, so quite a savings. They really appreciated it, and we can talk more specifically about that further on in the report. Another item is the third bullet. We added a new goal this year to our work experience program, and the work experience program is just a year old. We started it last year, and that is working with one of Anna Lloyd's programs with students that have a little bit more of a difficult time. And we wanted to add something to that this year, so we added continuity. What would happen if we had the student who we really appreciated work with us again this year? And what happened is he became more independent and worked the second half of this school year without a para. So that was pretty remarkable. And he's developed independence for future employment. And that is one of the goals of that program. We also had an opportunity a month ago to work with the IS prom with a purpose. So we catered the prom for the students. It was in Cohasset at the community center, and we really made it extra special for them. We used real beautiful serving pieces, and David's smiling because he's seen some of the beautiful art that the food and nutrition staff has done, and they just made it so nice for the kids with burning sternos and again, just beautiful serving pieces. This year, we had a fresh fruit and vegetable program grant in Big Fork. And what that is the Big Fork students could participate in having fresh fruits and vegetables, but those fresh fruits and vegetables had to be served outside of the breakfast and lunch program. So the students in Big Fork consumed about $10,000 worth of fruits and vegetables by February. So it was pretty heavily used. There's a chance that they'll be offered the grant again next year. And that was the only building that qualified for the grant. This year, we also collaborated with Kutaska Head Start by providing lunches to the students while their kitchen at Murphy was and still is being remodeled. So to date, we have prepared over 1,300 meals for them. And that was and is mutually beneficial. It was a nice partnership with Nick Adams, where they could have the convenience of the school district meals and the school district food and nutrition program benefits financially from serving and selling those meals to Kutaska. That was really only supposed to be a month or two, and then Nick called and said, could you do it a little bit longer? And we were really happy to. So just, again, mutually beneficial. Another item is that we just held our summer food service planning session. So that's a session that we hold every spring to talk about different programs that we will provide meals to during the summer. And I've said many times that we rely on economies of scale. The more that we can produce and sell, the more likely it is that we will break even. And it's really important that the food service program breaks even, because if we didn't, we would be tapping into educational dollars. It's called a cross subsidy. It's a bad thing. I'm not even going to look at Ben or Kara. But we try very hard not to do that. And so when I talk about a lot of meals that are served in addition to and outside of our flagship breakfast and lunch programs, that's the reason why. So we are working this summer with the YMCA camp, the Learning Academy, Boys and Girls Club, Extended School Year, ALC Kinder Camp, and Big Fork ALC. Big Fork might have 2 educational programs put together before we start. So students ages, or grades, I should say, K through age 18 can participate in the programs. Now, I just mentioned specific educational programs. That's a luxury for us that we have been able to attract those programs, because we know that they'll provide continuity with numbers and participation. So this summer program is open to public, K through age 18. Anybody can go to the middle school and have breakfast and lunch. But those educational programs definitely will have the breakfast and lunch this summer. So it's very nice. And we are projecting that our participation will be twice as high because of the programs that we're working with than our numbers were last summer. And last summer were, strong summer food service participation numbers. It's typically a pretty tiny program, but ours is hundreds and hundreds of meals a day. So that's all really, really good stuff. Now, we have 35 individuals that are employed in the food and nutrition program. And those 35 individuals prepared over 500,000 breakfasts, lunches, and snacks this year. And that is a heap. I did itemize them all for you. Our lunch, of course, provides the biggest numbers, and then breakfast. Then our Minnesota Kindergarten Milk Program, our at-risk Boys and Girls Club after school, the Learning Academy snacks that we prepare snacks for, the summer food service program, all of our catering, our Invest Early, the Little Red Wagon, YMCA, and Kutaska. Add them all up and it's over $500,000, so pretty gigantic. And if you think we need more ovens, freezers, and coolers, yes, we do. So we used everything beyond capacity this year. We weren't prepared at all for last year's legislative change. That just always seemed too good to be true. But we're speccing some things right now so that we can keep up with production. Speaking of spending money, our budget has grown and it's a little over $2 million. And we recover every penny of what we spend by serving all of the meals that we do. So we're on track to break even before the end of the year. So that's really good news for the food and nutrition program and the school district. I did mention the legislative change. And I wanted to point out that because of that change, even though we told the families and we reminded them many times over, we were months into the school year and still receiving phone calls asking if it could possibly be true that paid kids could have breakfast and lunch without paying. So we're projecting that this year, by the end of the year, we'll serve 20,000 more breakfasts than we did last year, and we will serve 50,000 more lunches, somewhere between 40 and 50,000 more. So those numbers are huge. Even though the meals are all served at no charge to all students, regardless of their ability to pay, we still have to collect applications for educational benefits. So those are the free and reduced applications. And it's very important that we collect as many as we can and process as many as we can, and remind families over and over to let us make the determination and do apply, even if you think you might miss the guideline, because every approved application counts toward educational dollars that we recover for educational programs. So it's, even though it's connected directly to food service, those numbers are tallied and they benefit the title programs and the compensatory aid. That's where the money comes from. So families still have to apply. This year, our numbers were about the same as last year, a little better. And last year, they were really good, by the way. I'm sure Kara reminded you over and over. They were really strong compensatory supporting numbers. All right, this is a breakdown by building of enrollment and student payment type during this school year. I mapped this out just so you could see where the percentages of students in the different payment types lied within the buildings. So I'm going to have you go to the next slide and we can talk about that in more detail. So this is an aggregate district-wide enrollment and student payment type over a 10-year period. And what does this report tell us? First of all, it tells us that over time, The number of students approved for free school meals tapered off and then grew significantly in the past 2 years. So what does that tell us? That tells us that perhaps the economy is a little slower because those numbers increase when the economy slows down. It also could tell us that the efforts collaborating to get the free and reduced applications up resulted in higher free numbers. And of course, the higher those numbers, the higher the compensatory revenue. The next category would be the reduced, same slide. The reduced is a much smaller population. Those are the students whose families qualify for reduced price meals. Again, they don't pay a reduced price, just like the paid students and free. They had them at no charge this year. But those numbers over the past 10 years, they grew a little, they fell a little, they tapered off. And then the students approved for paid. In the past 10 years, they fluctuated and then fell during the last 2 years. What does that tell us? It tells us that they're tracked and paced with the free students. So the free students, families who didn't apply, those students were counted as paid when they should have been counted as free, but we didn't know because they didn't apply. So there really was a big push last year and this year, and you can see that that was definitely effective. And then enrollment grew and tapered off and remained constant for the past 3 years. And then the student payment type and participation trends. This is just a closer look at how it impacts educational funding, and it tells us, if you look over in the 23-24 school year over to the right, we are projecting that we'll serve about 142,000 breakfasts. Last year, we served 120,000. Then lunches were somewhere around 382 for a projection, and last year we served 345. And last year the numbers were strong, and this year they're off the charts. So why are they up so high this year? Because of course it is the free school meals for all children, because it's the paid category that jumped up in numbers. And I just want to mention again, the educational benefits fund the educational programs, and they trended down during the 21-22 school year, and that was the tail end of COVID, or right when it was over, but we were still serving meals without charging, and it was a federal program. And because they trended down, that was a warning to us that if we didn't collaborate between departments and have the help of the business manager and the principals and the athletic department and whoever could help and whoever relies on those numbers, they all pitched in last year and this year, and we did see those numbers turn around. We could see that from 21-22 that if they didn't have to pay, they wouldn't apply. And if they didn't apply, our compensatory revenue would decrease. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Mr. Chair. Paulie, thank you. I appreciate the detail in the numbers and stuff, but a couple of questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, and I'm making an assumption here, correct me if I'm wrong, in years past, we had unpaid balances for meals. Do we still have that on the books today? And is there any thought on how we're going to proceed forward, being the meals are free, breakfast and lunch?
Yes. So, excuse me, it takes my breath away. We have about $80,000 worth of unpaid school meals. And this summer, we're going to focus on collecting those meals. We always did try and collect, and then during COVID, we quit collecting. And then we started mildly collecting. And this year, or this summer, we're back. There's been enough recovery, and it's just time to get those paid. And we do have a policy, of course, and we're going to follow that policy.
Thank you. My second question is the partnership that has been built with Kutaska supplying those meals. And I'm thinking outside of the box. And do we have capacity to continue to do that if they want to do that with us?
Yes, we would. We'd really love to work with them. And we have had a really nice working relationship with their head cook and with their director. We don't want to see that end. And I know they really have appreciated just how it's a food service maybe.
So is that still kind of up in the air, or going forward it's?
Yeah, going forward, we are open to it, that's for sure. I don't know where their board is, and it's a benefit for them too, when that they're not employing all the people and buying all the food and paying for equipment replacement and repairs. It's expensive.
Matt, would it be appropriate maybe meet with their head and just have a discussion on it and see? I really appreciate the partnership here.
Oh, yes.
With us and them. Mm-hmm. We're all benefiting students, and I appreciate your comment about if we already have it, and I don't want to speak for them, why should we rebuild it, or remodel it? We're already provided it and have that capability, and we have capacity for it. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair. Dave. Well, just a note of thanks and appreciation. Our students are fed breakfast and lunch, which makes a huge difference in their success. And I appreciate the food service being able to provide that service for our students. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The staff, they just blow me away with what they're capable of and how they make it look easy. With, limited cooler space, limited freezer space, limited ovens. And we have really nice equipment. But like I said, we're maxing it out pretty well.
Well, I think a lot of times people think about school lunch and they think about what school lunch was 30 years ago, but could you highlight a couple of the special lines you have, like at the high school or?
At the high school, we have, start out with breakfast. The breakfast meal pattern is bread, grain, fruit or vegetable, milk. And we don't do that. We have to meet the meal pattern, but we exceed the meal pattern. So we have eggs several times a week. The elementaries do too. Even though protein isn't part of the breakfast meal pattern, it just holds the kids longer. If you eat carbohydrates, you're going to metabolize that and be hungry. Your insulin goes up, your appetite goes up with your insulin. And so we like to build in the protein, even though it's more expensive, but the families really appreciate it. And at the high school, they make omelets from scratch for the students, and the kids love it. That's just one of the items. We have a variety of items every day for breakfast. Then for lunch, this year and last year, some of the new items that we have a cook-to-order line, so that's a slow line, slow-moving line. The kids come through and someone waits on them and puts together their meal right in front of them. And the kids that aren't in the mood for a grab-and-go pizza, hamburger item like that, they'll stand in the slower line and wait to be waited on. Then there's also a fresh deli sandwich and salad line and soup. So just really nice options for the kids. Last week we had lasagna for the first time. This year we have mega meatball as a new item. So it's a meatball that's 5 ounces and it's served with a marinara sauce and breadsticks. It has mozzarella cheese on the inside of it, just delicious. We have pasties, pulled pork, just some really nice menu items.
Those be the range pasties?
Yeah, they make them from scratch at the high school. They also make burritos from scratch and porchetta, that's a range thing.
Any further questions?
Chicken Alfredo. I'm trying to think of the not typical school meal menus.
When, Polly, you never had air conditioning.
Correct.
Do you have it yet?
I'm still mad that it took so long. I do.
Okay.
So the offices that are food and nutrition offices, and there are 3 of them, they are air conditioned. So that's nice. And this summer, they're working on air handling. And so that will pull out heat from the hot steamy ovens and the hot steamy dish machine. So that will all help, and thanks for asking.
I worked on it for.
You did. You did. Then his voice changed and he said, get it done.
I think, Mr. Chair, one of the other things too are just the nutritional guidelines that you have to work within and boundaries. And so do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so tomorrow is a good indication of a menu that we normally wouldn't come up with for the students. We have a French market salad on that menu. And what that is a chickpea salad made with green and red peppers and onion and vinaigrette dressing. Adults love it. The kids are terrified of it. But we are required to follow a very prescriptive meal pattern, and it's a USDA, it's a federal meal pattern. So we know the kids, the lion's share of them do not like hummus. We know they're not crazy about black beans. But we build those onto the menu in very prescriptive, measurable amounts, and we're audited on that by the state reviewers. They come in and make sure that it's on the menu and it has been served.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline.
Thanks.
We're going to adjourn the work session at this time, and we'll come back into session with the regular meeting in just a minute. You ready? We'll call the regular session to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Pat, second by Mindy. Any discussion about the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda, really just sort of an announcement. We interviewed student representatives for the school board, and Jaden Bison will be joining us next fall. And of course, summer will be going off. Normally, this would be Owen and Summer's last meeting. Typically, the students don't participate during the summer, so in the fall, we'll see Owen and Jaden. Good. Next item on the agenda is principal's report from Dan Adams.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share what it was like at the middle school this year. And if you hear a recurring theme, it's by design, as we did cycle 1, cycle 2 through the strategy team, which lends itself to the building leadership teams, and then just works right through the building. So if you hear recurring themes, that's the hard work of the strategy team and the superintendent that want to get us into a framework. And if there's one way to, I guess, put that is, it's been hard work, but we're a much better school community. And a simple summation would be that the strategy team to the building level leadership teams, we have created a framework, and now we have direction. So we will only get better. As far as the framework for the early outs in cycle 1, we started out in the fall, and this goes right back to September, building a positive culture for students and staff that includes things like crisis management and a comprehensive threat assessment guideline. Maybe you're familiar with CSTAG. Angie Berg has kind of spearheaded a lot of that along with Sean Martinson. And it just gives us a guideline as we do threat assessments within buildings, because obviously incidents come up throughout the school year. Building leadership teams, they work collaboratively with the strategy team, knowing and understanding something like the assessment calendar. And when you look at the different assessments, whether it's social emotional with SABRS, that's more of a behavioral assessment, or you look at our STAR testing, which we use at the middle school, and then that's the indicator for our MCAs. Understanding the outcomes of cycle 1 and how they're going to be measured through those various assessments. That was all built into September, October. The data warehouse that works in conjunction with Infinite Campus. Now I'm sure you've heard of EduClimber, and they work hand in hand. It's another data warehouse, but much more detailed. And learning how to use EduClimber certainly helps all of us as educators get to know our kids better, both academically and behaviorally. And that's been a huge asset to help progress monitor both academics and behaviors. Building data walls, maybe you've heard something about data walls or being able to access key data in regards to students. This would include things like snapshots of IEPs instead of having to run down, get a key, go into the file room, and go through all this paperwork. You can get a snapshot right on EduClimber, and that can give you a lot of those indicators and things that we're working towards through the IEP or 504. And then also interventions, and this certainly helps us with building relationships with those students and getting to know them. Implementing SABRS, which is a social emotional screener to get a snapshot of our students' social and emotional needs and behavioral needs. That kind of concludes cycle 1. And then as we went rounded the corner into January in cycle number 2, evidence-based practices and student-centered learning specific strategies to be used for equitable education for all of our students. And when you start getting into the strategies, you know, we've heard this, whether it be Sue Acree several years ago or Ryan DeBay now, scientifically proven strategies, things that work. And that's what we want to go into. This led into data-informed early outs and the development of these action plans used for grade levels and the different academic disciplines. So not just saying we're going to use these scientifically proven strategies, but actually having an action plan and actually having data. How are we going to assess it? What are we going to use? And again, referring back to things like our STAR assessment. As it got closer to testing time, and you're going to hear mixed reviews on MCAs because, you know, we set some pretty lofty goals and some of those goals were met and some maybe not so much. But when you look at building in the testing protocols, and maybe as board members, maybe some of you had the opportunity to go see basketball Jim. He went to a lot of different schools. Mr. Marty, you're waving your hand. That was highly motivational. It's not too often you can put 900, close to 900 6th, 7th, and 8th grade kids, and you can hear a pin drop, and every one of them are eating out of the palm of his hand because he had great stories. And so many of the kids, and some of the kids that you wouldn't think would pay attention to assessment data or MCAs were like, you know what, I'm going to give it my best. And it wasn't about pounding home, you know, this is, okay, it's important. It's our World Series or it's our Super Bowl. But in the same token, do your best, breathe, and be calm. And then you saw some of our alumni or some pretty prestigious people comment about do your best, but stay calm and breathe. Just a lot of really good stuff. And the testing protocols, we will only get better there as well. And just emphasizing that it's a snapshot. It's one day, one test. Yes, we want to do our best, but it's still a snapshot. And as a school, as a district, we still have to focus on the whole child because the way those kids come and the bags they bring into our building every day, sometimes that test might not rank real high with them because they got a lot of things going on in their lives. So it's just critical that, you know, we emphasize the importance of the test, but we also emphasize the importance of we appreciate every one of them as people and individuals. And then the last one that is kind of sprinkled throughout the school year is wellness of staff. We talk about taking care of us because everyone's different. And then we also talk about building in some collegiality into that staff wellness because, you know, we've surveyed through our leadership team and we got a nice, effective leadership team. There's 11 people that represent all the different walks in our building. But if you were to ask those 11 people, what does staff wellness look like in the middle school? They would have 11 different answers because some of them are like, you know what, I would just really like to work in my room, take care of me. Some would like to go for a walk. Some would like to walk down the hall and connect with another teacher that they really don't get to talk to throughout the school year because it's hair on fire from September to the beginning of June or the end of May, and just to have a chance to connect. So what we're trying to do with the wellness and the collegiality is kind of tap into different entities with each one of those opportunities to say, we can be flexible. Maybe we have a game day for part of a early out. And again, early outs and PLCs, I'm sure you've heard that, they're kind of one and the same, but incrementally different. So we're referring to the same 45 minutes to an hour at the end of the day on Wednesdays. But that collegiality is a big piece and we'll continue to promote that along with wellness. So with that being said, that like a lot of hard work, strategy team has put a lot of effort into communicating with the leadership teams and that trickling down to everyone in the buildings. But I can honestly say, being in this district for quite a few years now, I think we're rolling in the same direction. And it feels good that we have a framework and a plan moving forward. So I'm confident saying that we will get better every year. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, Dan, I appreciate your comments as far as we're finally heading in the right direction. At our workshop last week and the board meeting prior to that, I think it realized just as board members here that we finally feeling some continuity and consistency amongst all the buildings and all the staff from Grand Rapids to Big Fork of the arrows going in the right direction, all in the same direction. So appreciate your comments on that.
It feels good. It really does. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the May 6th regular school board meeting. So moved by David. Second by Pat. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes for May 6th are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of May 13th, 24 special school board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Ben.
Second.
Second by Mindy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Casey?
Good evening, board. Tonight we have Jacob Hansen, vocal teacher replacement hire, Carrie Helgeson, routing specialist resignation, Danielle Lovedahl, ESP replacement hire, Rachel Newman, part-time .8 social studies teacher replacement hire, Rachel Newman, part-time .2 agricultural education teacher replacement hire, Christy Mimi, teacher replacement hire, Brenna Olson, speech and language pathologist teacher replacement hire, Sherry Powell, ESP replacement hire, Kayla Wass, teacher replacement hire, Jennifer Wilhelm, accountant replacement transfer hire, and Amanda Wright, special education teacher replacement hire. I'm recommending approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pat, second by David. Reminder, there's no discussion on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is informational only 2023 legislative mandates. Superintendent Brooks.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we spent some time at our last work session discussing this non-exhaustive list that I put together. I think there's between 30 and 40 of these. These are selective, hitting on some of the main ones that will affect Grand Rapids area schools. I think one of the things that is easy to miss is, or to misconstrue as we hear things from the media and things like that, is about funding and funding levels. And I think it's easy for folks to miss the fact that it isn't just, new positions that are required that cost us money or have implications to the budget. New processes cost us money. Time costs us money. New policies have costs. Anytime there are new requirements put in place as far as courses being in certain places or new courses being required, like the ones that are included in here, there are definitely costs. And so some of these are very straightforward and easy to calculate. Some of them really are difficult to sort of tease out what the final cost will be, but we know that none of these will come without no cost. So I wanted to put those in front of you again, make sure the community is aware of these and things that we're dealing with and dealing with fewer people. So entertain any questions on these that you might have.
Mr. Chair, Matt, I think there was a total, the number was 67 mandates that the state passed in 2023. And I'll keep in mind, this is last legislative session, not the one that just ended today. And the ones that you're listed here, these 40 or so, these are the ones that have a direct impact on 318.
Yeah, I think, depending on who's doing the counting, there was a number that I heard that was in that area. And like you said, there are some more coming this spring with the session that just passed. And there are some things that didn't get done that are going to create problems for us. The gridlock, the conflict that existed down there is impacting our school district because it's going to make our work next year harder. And it's unfortunate that they weren't able to sort some of that out, and politics got in the way of some of that work that needed to get done for our community, our schools.
I appreciate you bringing it up, and hopefully our local media can maybe reach out to you and give a little more detail for the public perspective on it and the impact that it has on us. Thank you for that.
Any further discussion or questions? Next item on the agenda is board reports. Want to start, Pat?
Sure. Attended scholarship awards night, helped out Grand Rapids Community Foundation Committee and their organization and handing out some scholarships. I think there was a lot of money that was handed out on that Wednesday night at the high school, and it's really nice to see the Community Foundation as well as all the scholarships within 318 that will help kids in the fall moving forward. Attended a couple of middle school band concerts. The Grolschlag family did a great job in providing those concerts and working with the kids and that. This Thursday, we have our Rams board meeting. We'll be in Nashwauk. And the purpose we were having in Nashwauk, the Rams board and any associated organizations, i.e. school board members, if you're interested in the tour of the Saba Metallics, will be leaving the Nashwauk City Hall about 5 o'clock. Anybody that's interested, stop on. We'll be there to follow that, and then our board meeting. And our board meeting on Thursday is primarily going to be talking about legislative, how it ended and all the impacts from townships to schools to cities on that. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mindy?
I attended the last wellness committee meeting, and I think they're going to kind of slow down for the summer, but they're going to get together and do some planning for the return to school kickoff days with the teachers at the end of August and try to do some wellness during that time frame. Good.
Dave?
Boys and Girls Club met and is trying to find its way forward. Facilities is a big issue and major funding. There have been some major funding changes for the Boys and Girls Club that's affecting their future. And then spending some time with MREA and MSBA on the legislative changes. Matt just referred to a lot of the changes that are on the books from 2023. There's a whole new plateful for 2024.
Ben?
Nothing.
The only thing I have to report, I was part of the interview committee that looked at student representatives, and Jane will be joining us in the fall, and I think she'll be a real good addition and a good student voice for us. Superintendent's report. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Busy staffing. We still have a number of positions to fill that are posted, interviews coming up. And so working on that, that's an ongoing process, and a lot of trickle down that happens as a result of that. Our curriculum committee, our ELA, or English Language Arts Curriculum Committee, has been working through the process of interpreting the READ Act, understanding what the requirements are there, landing on a curriculum to choose as we seek to comply with the READ Act and state law around the approach to reading and the curriculums that are approved. And so that group's been meeting, had their third meeting, and it's made a recommendation around which curriculum they'd prefer us to move forward with. So heavy involvement with teachers. I think there are 14 teachers on that committee, as well as some principal leaders as well. Still working through and putting some final touches on the moving and packing process. That is happening now. We have some people getting ahead of that. And want to remind our community that the last day for our elementary students at Cohasset East and West is next a week from this Wednesday, the 29th. So our community family should be aware of that. Some procedural things that we work through as a school district and always talk about, but we have labor management committees that meet. We had one recently. That's one of our obligations as a school district, to meet with our employee groups. We discuss systems level issues there. So we had that in the last couple of weeks. We're working on a communication strategy, and that's something we talked about in our work session 2, is what our campaign or theme will be moving forward and how to continue to build trust and confidence in the school district. So there'll be more to come on that. And this is the last meeting before graduation, last meeting before the end of the school year. So a lot still to do, but that will come quickly, I'm sure. And that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Reminder, upcoming school board committee meeting dates are posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found at the district website and also at the designated posting site inside the door of Independent School District 318 Educational Services Center. Is there any other business? Julie, has anybody signed up for public input?
They have not.
At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve going into closed session according to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3A performance evaluation, annual evaluation for Superintendent Gross.
So
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by Ben. Julie, I think we need a roll call vote for this.
Yes, we do, thank you. Mark Schroeder,
Yes.
Mindy Nguyen,
Yes.
David Marty,
Yes.
Ben Hawkins,
Yes.
Pat McGarry.
yes,
At this time, we're going to go into closed session, and so I would ask anybody that's not on the board to ask you to leave.